One of the cool projects that you're working on, and which gives money to a very good cause, by the way, is you have these war criminal playing cards.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I didn't even remember this. So let's take a look at this, because this was inspired by some really disgusting playing cards that were created around the war in Iraq.
When in
Yeah,
2003, President Bush's military created a deck of cards that British and American soldiers were handed. And those deck of cards had Saddam Hussein's face on them and all his leadership. And the goal of those deck of cards was to hunt, capture, and kill those people. Effectively, US soldiers would go out there and look at them, and if someone looked like them, they would shoot them. They weren't even like that good at trying to find any of these individuals. They just shoot people who they'd get away for crimes because they would say, "Oh, well, he looked like one of the people in
right.
cards." So when this started, immediately I connected with a few old friends of mine. I was like,
And
"I
by
want
the
to
way,
know
let
what
me
this."
just add that as of
Yeah.
2021, all but 4 of the 52 most wanted of those Iraq criminals
Hmm.
have either died or been captured. And
Hmm.
that was created by the US Defense Intelligence.
And they are actually. It's so funny because when Gaza started, it was the 20th anniversary of those cards.
Right.
Literally, the week before Gaza, it was September 30th. It was the 20th. So they're like I saw that, and I have colleagues in the UK who still have a deck of cards who serve in the UK service. I'm like, oh my god. Um, so I wanted to create something originally for the media, so they would understand who was behind the war crimes that we're seeing in Gaza right now, in Palestine right now. So create this deck of cards. Effectively, this is it was designed by a Palestinian. That's the box, and it has effectively all the people from the U.S. War Cabinet, the Israeli War Cabinet, but also spokespeople who literally create consent for these crimes. Matt Miller, Kareem, and also people who carry water for this genocide. People like Hillary, who went on TV and spread mass rape hoax lies, like
Right. Oh, yeah.
literally have done that, right? Foreign leaders who've been out there spreading these lies. So, yes, it's obvious to have people like Anthony Blinken, like on one of these
Oh, yeah.
cards.
There we got it.
But, why shouldn't Matt Miller be held responsible for this? Why shouldn't he, for the rest of his life, be known as a war criminal? Why shouldn't, John Kirby, who is everybody's most detestable human being, be known as a war criminal? And the reason the spokespeople mean so much to me, as someone who was a former press secretary and communications director, one of the most disgusting things about Iraq was Nicole Wallace in the
Oh,
US and
great.
Alistair Campbell in the UK rewriting reports to claim there was WMDs.
Right.
They knowingly went there. Neither of them has ever seen a day of justice. Neither of them has ever been prosecuted for their crimes. And
And
they
Nicole
create the
Wallace
consent.
is on MSNBC.
Yes, 100%. And Nicole has a show. Alistair Campbell is like loved in the UK. It's kind of like he's rewritten his history, like he had nothing to do with these war crimes. Both of them, and it's about the Obama comment earlier on. When you let those war crimes pass, you allow for the next generation of
Right.
comms directors to create consent. They can literally lie to your face. They are lying to every journalist as they stand at the podium of the State Department. They are lying to the public, but they are let out there unchallenged, saying all these things that happened around October 7th, giving no context from before, and being allowed to create consent amongst our public for these horrific crimes that we're seeing in Gaza today. And the reality is that, you know, some of the things with these cards. So when we originally created for the media, I realized really quickly that a lot of the US media didn't care. They didn't want to, there are people like yourself and other people who've like actually are reporting this with the mainstream, like New York Times, like they didn't want to know that bunch of, except a handful of reporters. They knew what was going on. They just were following orders effectively. Um, so we ended up making it for the public because we realized there was a massive information gap. And in February, we released 1,000 decks and they were gone in 3 days. And in July, yeah, 3 days. It was crazy because there was so much demand about like this and also educating people. It was about educating people. Why these people are in there. There's information about them and online with the Instagram page attached to it. There was like what their war crimes were, which was
Right.
really important. So people could educate future generations, people right now, parents, frankly, in-laws, like I have to. like so
Right.
but then we partnered with someone I know, Dr. Gassam Abu Sissa, who I know people who follow he's the
Yes.
world-renowned, frankly, reconstructive surgeon, was working in Gaza at the beginning, has worked in multiple war zones, has never seen anything like he's seen. And we're partnered with his children's fund, which is set up a clinic in Beirut. And he basically takes the most affected surviving kids, like people who've lost arms, because people don't realize when you're amputated, if you want to continue to grow the limb, you have to do surgery again and again so the bone continues to grow. And children with burns top to bottom, and he does what they can to reconstruct their lives. So he set up a clinic in Beirut to do that. They evacuate people who, when that stopped because Netanyahu won't let any more people evacuate, but they were evacuating children up there to help them, give them some sense of normality. So every dollar, every single dollar from these cards goes to him.
That's great.
And the reason they're $30 is that, people, I I want to know that we want to raise as much money, and they've got the best doctors already. Like people have quit their jobs, they're doing I can't think of another word but God's work. These all over the world to come there and actually do this work. They need supplies. It's all about supplies. Like every dollar they can do provides the aid, the medicine, the bandages, everything that they can get their hands on to make sure that this clinic is the best clinic it can be for those children.
Here's the little you have a cute little graphic. I think that's on your Instagram page, and people want to know where you can get the card, so we'll make sure we put the link in the description. But I wanted to show some clips of some of these war criminals. Of course, one is I think an obvious one, right? Is Kamala Harris. Wanted you to
Yeah.
react to some stuff that she said at the DNC.
America, we must also be steadfast in advancing our security and values abroad. As Vice President, I have confronted threats to our security, negotiated with foreign leaders, strengthened our alliances, and engaged with our brave troops overseas. As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world. And I will fulfill our sacred obligation to care for our troops and their families, and I will always honor and never disparage their service and their sacrifice.
Lethality. We join aside.
Watching them cheer is the hardest thing. Watching her
Yeah.
speak, I think I've got used to them lying and saying crazy things.
Right.
Watching an audience of 20,000 supposedly liberal, progressive people stand and cheer that on, and lethal to your
Disgusting,
point.
yeah.
Like watching them cheer that and think that was a good thing.
Yeah, it's really
Like,
disturbing.
somebody sent me a meme about it from Europe. It reminded him of the scene where in Star Wars, where the senator, where they attack, tried to take the emperor out, and then he turns the republic into an empire, and they applaud the end of democracy. The people there
Right.
applauded the end of, and it's literally that. I mean, people think about how Trump is going to do this and everything else, and that context was already set, right? But like, we have been losing our rights through Bush to Obama to Trump to Biden, and now Harris will do the same, continue that. Like, we are slowly losing things. And frankly, if people talk about like this horrible thing of this project in the future that the Republicans are going to do, it's already happening.
Right.
Like people talking about Project 2025 like it's like some horrific thing. I'm going to give Obama 2 bits of credit. At least under his Justice Department, they would challenge horrific Republican laws that were passed in Louisiana, Mississippi, or Alabama or Florida. Joe Biden's Justice Department hasn't challenged any of the trans laws that have passed, anti-trans laws. He's not challenged any of the abortion laws. They've not taken any of them to court. And you could say, oh, well, the Supreme Court's not going to help. Challenge it. It can be delayed. Lives are saved when you delay those laws being implemented, right? And to make matters worse, like, they are like just ushering in more Republican policies at the border. Like, this
Right.
is not your friend. This is not your auntie. This is not your colleague. This is not someone who cares about you. She cares about being president.
Right.
She is moving to the right quicker than George Bush. Like, it's mind-blowing. Her policy on Israel is to the right of George Bush. She's the
Yeah.
third or fourth most highest funded person by AIPAC. They want her in office to continue to slaughter Palestinians. And the reality is that, like, for a lot of people, the comfort of an American life means bodies everywhere else in the world. And that's what they're willing to sacrifice so they can, like, go to brunch without thinking about whether the Republican in office is going to take their laws away. right? The reality is there's a lack of understanding of what's going on around us right now, which is already fascism. Like we're already living in it. The idea that we're not living in it. We have police, as you know, you and me both live in New York, like that are unaccountable by any measure. They killed people, as we all know, in the last since 2020 and before, and they don't get prosecuted, not just by the state or the city, by the Justice Department. We already have unanswerable, unelected people who police us, right? We have that thing. We have laws already being passed to restrict our rights to protest. We have laws that allow us not to say things now about Zionism, not even like about, I don't know, the use of the racial slur, which could be offensive, but Zionism, like, which is a political movement.
Right.
All our rights are being slowly stripped from us, and the reality is people when they think of fascism, they think of stormtroopers at the corner of streets, they think of the Nazis, they think of being watched constantly. Well, we are being watched constantly. The reality is this is capitalist fascism. They still need you to brunch. The only people that disappear in capitalist fascism, frankly, are the people that stand up for everybody else. That's who disappears, because they want noise. They want you to keep spending money so it continues to tick and keeps going, and they can continue to extract from the rest of the world. And that's what Kamala Harris's vision for America is, frankly.
A lot of people, as you know, are saying that, oh, Kamala Harris is a real breath of fresh air. She's not the genocidal Joe that we know. But let's take a look at how different they are in their even in their rhetoric. And this was tweeted out by Zay Squirrel, who's someone
Mm.
who has done amazing research. He's on Twitter, and he's done they've done, I don't know if it's a man or woman, they've done amazing research on the Hamas rape hoax.
Hmm.
So let's take a look at this comparison.
War in Gaza, President Biden and I are working around the clock because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done.
My negotiators of foreign policy, intelligence community, and like have been relentlessly focused, not just on a ceasefire that would inevitably be fragile and temporary, but on a durable end of the war.
I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself.
Israel will always have the right to defend itself against the threats to its security and to bring those responsible for October 7th to justice. And the United States will always ensure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself.
Because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7, including unspeakable sexual violence.
Ordinary Israelis whose lives were forever marked by the shattering event of Hamas's sexual violence and ruthless brutality.
At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating.
And the Palestinian people have endured sheer hell in this war.
So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking.
Too many innocent people have been killed, including thousands of children.
President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom.
A better future for the Palestinian people, one of self-determination, dignity, security, and freedom.
He would never have anointed her. I mean, you know their relationship. She's
Right.
best friends with Bo before he passed, right? He would never have anointed her and endorsed her so quickly if he wasn't happy with the fact that she was going to continue his policy work,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
the horrors they are going off, I know when I time it's just that they are going off the fact that there is a limited understanding of international law. There's a limited understanding in America of the history and context of what's happened in Palestine. There's limited understanding of who are terrorists and who are not, frankly. Like I love the continuation of the terrorist Hamas organization. Didn't the United States once call Nelson Mandela and the ANC terrorists? Didn't they
right.
call the Viet Cong terrorists? Don't they seem to call every indigenous movement that wants to reclaim its land a terrorist group, right? And
And
let's
what
just be
about the
honest,
terrorism of Israel?
right? So before, like, the reality is only about 30 countries regards them. And the common theme with all those 30 countries are they're white countries in Europe and America, white dominant countries. And the reality is they're the ones who treat indigenous resistance movements as terrorist organizations. The only terrorist organization here is Israel and its backer, the United States of America. And the world currently is being held hostage by the US, and that we need to resist at every possible turn on our streets, in our policy, in our work, everything we do to isolate both the US and Israel.
I want to show one more video because we want to be inclusive and we don't want to, erase anyone. So let's show one more war criminal, and this is Matt Miller being questioned by Prem Thacker.
Really, an independent investigation if the alleged culprits are the ones conducting the strike?
What I said, we thought it's appropriate for the government of Israel to investigate. They have said to us, and again, as I said, I'm not attesting to any of these facts. I can tell you that we intervened with them. They provide us answers. I'm providing them to you. And what they have said is they went to these agencies and asked for information, and it wasn't forthcoming.
Sure. So on that note, on you said that the Red Crescent, the UN hasn't provided answers. Will you move to verify those claims?
It is not for us to do it. Look, I would hope that. Hold on. I would hope that those agencies can come forward and provide information. It's easy to do so. If it is in fact, if in fact they have information, they should come forward and do it. And provide it, and we'll be happy to look at that.
I do think him and his colleagues in the media who just write everything need to be brought up on charges of incitement to genocide. Because, by the way, for people who think that can't happen, just take a look at Rwanda. The biggest prosecution of genocide cases was against the media in Rwanda, right? It was, and Western institutions are not immune from that. So you think you don't like Jake Tapper? If we need to get international lawyers together to go after these people who've worked with Matt Miller and Karine and other Democrat spokespeople behind the scenes to craft that narrative to get out to the public, and they can be held accountable.
And one other thing that they've pushed, and this is atrocity propaganda, that's why they talk about the Hamas rape hoax all the time, because they want to kind of like reach people's like lizard brains almost, so that they think that these people have done this, they think they're monsters, and that justifies everything. And it is so upsetting that they talk about the sexual violence. The DNC platform mentioned it, Kamala mentioned it, and nobody has talked about the actual verified rape that has been documented, that has been on camera, that that Israelis have protested for the right for soldiers to commit, that the Knesset member has said is justified. I mean, they are silent on that. These people don't care about rape at all. They don't care about women at all. They don't care about sexual violence. It is purely politicized, and it's so disgusting. And the double standard is just so infuriating.
So using that same trope, who else do they use that against domestically? Black men.
Black men, yeah.
Let's just be real. Like, we recently had Yusuf speak at the DNC, which I welcome as someone who's formerly incarcerated. Having someone up there with such a powerful story, but continually the monster man goes back to the crime bill, frankly, and Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden calling them super predators.
Super predators, right.
Black men in America have been subject to that same, they go after your women, the innocent white woman, the innocent woman. And they are subject now, the target predominantly is brown men in the Middle East. They go after our women. Like they go and rape them because they want that atrocity thing that's back in the back of your head, because you've heard it so many times and you've watched it through Hollywood and other propaganda that you've been subject to for the last 20, 30, 40 years. But you believe that instantly without any challenge. Not the crimes that, the Israelis who literally, as you said, are outwardly protesting for the right to rape.
Right. So disgusting. Yeah, really disgusting. And of course, it was like with Gaddafi. They said that he was giving Viagra to the army.